Welcome to the Vibes Lab, your front row seat to the science behind VIA, the Vibes AI agentic platform making everyday brain health accessible to all. Every episode is designed to reveal insights that will enhance your cognitive health and well-being. Follow us to grab your lab key and experience limitless intelligence.
Hey everyone, and welcome to The Deep Dive. We're diving into a really cool topic today, sound therapy, and how it can help boost our brains.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're going to be looking at this new audio track from Vibes AI called Neural Nurture 40 Hertz.
Interesting.
And we'll be looking at some research that suggests that listening to certain sound frequencies could actually improve how our brains work. And even maybe help with conditions like Alzheimer's.
Yeah, it's a fascinating field, and it's really gaining popularity.
I can imagine.
It reminds me of how yoga kind of went from this niche thing to something everyone does for wellness now.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
It's all about tapping into the power of something natural to improve our well-being.
I like it. So to start us off, could you give us a quick explanation of sound therapy and how it works?
Of course. Basically, sound therapy uses the idea that sound can impact both our physical and our mental states.
Okay.
And this is where psychoacoustics comes in.
Psychoacoustics.
Yeah, it's the study of how sound affects our nervous systems. And one of the leading researchers in this area, Jeffrey Thompson, from the Center for Neuroacoustic Research, has found that different frequencies of sound can actually target specific parts of the body.
Hold on, really? So different frequencies for different body parts?
Exactly. For instance, frequencies between 500 and 400 hertz seem to have an effect on muscles, while lower frequencies target things like your joints and bones.
Wow.
And even lower frequencies can impact us all the way down to the cellular level.
That's amazing. So how does all this relate to making our brains work better?
Good question. A key mechanism here is something called brainwave entrainment. Essentially, our brain waves tend to sync up with external rhythms, and that includes sound frequencies. So by using specific frequencies, we can kind of encourage our brains to shift into different states.
Interesting.
Like states of relaxation or focus.
Right.
And those different states can really influence how well our brains function.
So we can use sound to fine-tune our brainwaves.
You got it. And one technique that's often used for this is binaural beats.
Ah, binaural beats. I've heard of that, but I'm not quite sure how it works.
It's pretty cool, actually. Binaural beats involve listening to slightly different tones in each ear.
Oh.
And your brain then creates a third tone, kind of a phantom tone. That's the difference between those two frequencies.
Yep.
And this third perceived tone is what your brain waves start to synchronize with.
So like if you hear a 400 hertz tone in one ear and 410 hertz in the other, your brain creates a 10 hertz tone, and your brain waves try to match that.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And by adjusting those frequencies, you can target different brainwave patterns.
Interesting.
Which are associated with different mental states.
That makes sense. So let's talk about memory and learning, because I know there's been some interesting research looking at how sound therapy can affect those.
There has. For example, there was this study in the journal Nature that found adults with musical training had better verbal memory than those who didn't have that training.
Interesting.
This suggests that being exposed to complex sound patterns, especially over a long time, can have a lasting positive effect on memory function.
So maybe learning a musical instrument can help keep your brain sharp.
It definitely can't hurt. And when it comes to learning, research has shown that binaural beats can induce this really deep relaxation. That's even deeper than what you can achieve with like self-induced relaxation techniques.
Really?
Yeah, and this deep relaxation can be super helpful for learning and for creativity because it helps your brain take in and process information more efficiently.
It's like creating the ideal mental environment for absorbing new information.
Exactly. And speaking of creating their ideal mental environment, that's where Vibes AI and their Neural Nurture 40 Hertz track come in.
Okay, yeah. I'm really interested to hear more about their approach.
Yeah.
What sets them apart from other methods of sound therapy?
Well, Vibes AI is doing something they call a whole brain approach.
Whole brain?
Yeah, instead of focusing on just one specific area of the brain, they're aiming to synchronize and harmonize the entire brain.
So instead of just trying to target one part, they're trying to get the whole brain working together.
Exactly. They believe that this leads to more holistic and lasting benefits.
Okay, I'm really intrigued by this whole brain concept. Can you explain how they actually achieve this synchronization?
They use a combination of specific sound frequencies and binaural beats.
Right.
It's all part of their whole brain work concept, where they stimulate the whole brain rather than just focusing on specific regions.
So, for example, instead of just targeting the prefrontal cortex to improve focus, they're trying to get all areas of the brain working in sync.
Precisely. And this is where their idea of self-awareness as a self-induced brainwave comes in.
A self-induced brainwave.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty out there.
Oh?
Can you explain what that means?
Sure. Think of it this way. Your brain is constantly sending out a signal that's basically saying, hey, I'm here, I'm aware.
Okay.
Vibes. AI believes that these self-awareness signals might actually be brainwaves that are operating at frequencies above 5 hertz. And they believe that these signals can be influenced and enhanced through specific sound frequencies.
So by stimulating these self-awareness brainwaves, they're boosting the brain's ability to monitor and regulate itself.
Exactly. And this all ties back to their whole brain approach.
Okay.
By enhancing self-awareness, they believe they can create a more harmonious and integrated brain state.
Right.
And this can then lead to improvements in a whole range of cognitive functions like memory focus and even creativity.
That's incredible. So we've got these sound frequencies, brainwave entrainment, binaural beats, and now this idea of self-awareness as a brainwave.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the neural nurture 40 hertz track specifically. What's so special about the 40 hertz frequency?
Well, there's some research out there suggesting that 40 hertz frequencies could help slow down cognitive decline.
Interesting.
So what Vibes AI is exploring is whether using this frequency in a targeted way, combined with their whole brain approach, could not only slow down cognitive decline, but actually improve overall cognitive health.
That's a bold claim. I'm ready to hear more about their research and how our listeners can get involved, but I think that's a good place to stop for now.
That's good.
We'll delve into that after a quick break.
Great.
And we're back. Man, this whole idea of using sound to make our brains work better is so fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
Before the break, we were talking about Vibes, AI's neural nurture 40 hertz track, and their whole brain approach. And you mentioned they're actually doing research right now to see how effective their methods are.
That's right. And the cool thing is they're encouraging everyone to be a part of this research, not just scientists in a lab.
I love that. Citizen science for the brain.
Exactly.
So how can our listeners get involved and contribute to these findings?
Well, Vibes AI has this before and after survey.
Okay.
Anyone can take it. You take the survey once before listening to the neural nurture 40 hertz track, and then again right after.
Okay.
And that helps them gather data on how the sound therapy affects people.
I'm definitely going to take that survey. But before I do, I'm curious about the specific parts of the brain they're targeting with this track.
Sure.
You mentioned they're aiming for whole brain synchronization, but are there any particular areas they're focusing on?
Yeah. So while their ultimate goal is to create harmony across the entire brain, there are some key areas they focus on with the neural nurture 40 hertz track.
Okay, like what?
Well, they target the mind. And yes, they do make a distinction between the mind and the brain.
Interesting.
The eyes, the ears, the pineal gland,
Huh.
and even the third eye chakra.
Hey, the third eye chakra, that sounds a bit, well, mystical.
It might sound a bit esoteric, I know, but there's actually a growing amount of research that's looking into the connection between sound frequencies and these energy centers.
Really?
Yeah, and Vibes AI is really at the forefront of this.
So they're not just focusing on the physical parts of the brain, but also these more subtle energy systems.
Exactly. They believe that harmonizing these energy centers can help the brain work even better, more coherently.
So they're looking at the brain as both a biological organ and an energetic system.
That's right. It's a really holistic approach. And remember how we talked about binaural beats earlier? Well, the neural nurture 40 hertz track uses binaural beats to get the brain to sync up with that specific frequency, which research suggests has benefits for cognitive function.
Right. So to recap, we've got the 40 hertz frequency, which might help with cognitive decline.
Right.
We've got binaural beats, which are used for brainwave entrainment. And we've got this fascinating focus on harmonizing both the physical and energetic aspects of the brain.
Exactly.
It's really a unique approach.
It is. And remember, their research is ongoing. So
Right.
listener participation is super important.
Absolutely. So if you're listening to this and you're curious about sound therapy, I really encourage you to look into Vibes AI's research and maybe even participate.
Yeah, it's a chance to be part of something groundbreaking.
For sure. So let's shift gears a bit here. I think it's important to talk about something that might be on some listeners' minds. Are there any risks or downsides to sound therapy?
That's a good point. It's always wise to consider both sides of the coin. You know, While sound therapy is generally considered very safe, there are a few things to be aware of.
Why?
Some people might get mild side effects like headaches or dizziness,
Oh.
especially when they're first starting out, but this usually goes away pretty quickly as the brain gets used to it.
So it's kind of like starting a new workout routine. You might feel a little sore at first,
Yeah,
but it's just your body adjusting.
that's a great way to put it. And just like with exercise, it's important to pay attention to how your body's feeling and maybe adjust how you're using sound therapy if needed.
Right.
Another thing to remember is that sound therapy isn't meant to replace conventional medical treatments. It's more like a complementary approach that can work alongside those treatments and support your overall well-being.
It's about integrating these new tools and technologies into a more holistic view of health.
Exactly. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on one more really interesting part of Vibes AI's approach, their concept of memory as a whole brain function.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
It's connected to their idea of self-awareness as a self-induced brainwave,
Yeah.
right?
You got it. They see memory as being really closely tied to this constant self-awareness signal our brains are sending out.
Hmm.
And they even suggest that this self-awareness signal might be happening at frequencies above 5 hertz,
Wow.
which is pretty interesting considering the neural nurture 40 hertz track uses frequencies in that range.
So maybe by stimulating these self-awareness brainwaves, the track could be boosting memory function indirectly.
That's what they're looking into, and it really shows their dedication to understanding the brain as a whole.
Yeah.
They're not looking for quick fixes or just targeting specific symptoms. They really want to understand how the brain works as one complete system and how sound can help it work better.
It's like they're trying to conduct a symphony of brain activity.
That's a great analogy. So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to step back and think about the big picture. What
Mhm.
does all this mean for the future of brain health?
That's a great question, and I'm excited to explore that with you. And we're back to the deep dive. It's pretty wild to think that just sound could be the key to unlocking more brain power.
Yeah, it is amazing. And the thing is, we're really just at the beginning.
Right.
You know, as research goes on in technology, like what Vibes AI is developing gets even better, we're going to see even more incredible personalized approaches to sound therapy.
Can you imagine a future where we're like tuning our brains for better performance just by listening to certain sounds?
Right. It's like science fiction becoming reality.
That's it.
And it's future we can all be a part of, whether it's by taking part in research like the survey from Vibes AI,
Yeah.
or using sound therapy in our own lives, or even just telling people about how powerful it can be. We can all help make this happen.
So to all our listeners out there, take what we've talked about today and go explore it more.
Yes.
Check out the resources we've linked in the show notes, try sound therapy for yourself, and most importantly, stay curious.
The human brain is an amazing thing. It can do so much more than we think, and sound, as we've seen, could be the key to unlocking its full potential.
Well said. I think that's the perfect way to end this episode. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into sound therapy. And until next time, keep exploring and keep those brainwaves humming.